The Great Hall of the Hegemony Council stretched wide like a metal canyon. Hundreds of alien leaders sat in their floating chairs, their strange faces lit by blue light from the massive screens above them. Today, they would decide the fate of another world. Today, they would choose who lived and who died. Admiral Vextar stood tall on his 6 legs, his purple skin gleaming under the harsh lights. His 4 eyes watched the council members as they talked about their next target. The Caltharian Empire had won many battles for the hegemony. They were the best killers in space. "The 3rd planet of the Sol system," announced Council Leader Jexpol. His voice echoed through the hall like thunder. "Intelligence reports show a weak species. They call themselves humans. They have barely learned to travel between their own planets." Vextar listened as the reports played on the screens. Images of Earth appeared, a small blue and green world spinning slowly in the dark. The planet looked peaceful, almost pretty. But that would change soon. "Their largest ships are made of simple metal," continued Jexpol. "They use chemical fuel to push through space. No energy shields protect them, no plasma weapons arm them. Our computers say we can defeat them in 3 days. The council members made approving sounds. Some laughed. Others clicked their claws together in excitement. This would be easy. Too easy. Vextar had seen easy battles before. His 47th Conquest Fleet had destroyed the Centauran Republic in just 4 days. Before that, they had wiped out the crystal cities of Nexus Prime in less than a week. The humans would be even simpler to crush. "Admiral Vextar," called Jexpol, "you will take 200 dreadnoughts, 500 cruisers, and 1,000 support ships. This should be more than enough force to handle primitive humans." "Yes, Council Leader," Vextar replied. His voice was deep and strong. "How many human ships defend their world?" "About 30 vessels," said the intelligence officer. "Most are converted mining ships and research stations. They have no real military fleet. Their weapons are kinetic projectiles and simple explosives, nothing that can harm our ships." Vextar nodded. His fleet carried enough firepower to crack planets. The humans had metal tubes that shot pieces of lead. It would not even be a real fight. But something in the report caught his attention, a small detail that seemed strange. "Intelligence Officer Krelvan, what is this note about human surrender patterns?" The thin gray alien checked his datapad. "Ah, yes, Admiral. In their species' history, humans have never surrendered to anyone, not even to other humans. They fight until death in every recorded conflict." Never surrendered. Vextar found this hard to believe. Not once. "Correct, Admiral, but this is surely because they have never faced superior technology. Once they see our power, they will submit like all primitive species do." The council members agreed with clicking and chirping sounds. Vextar was not so sure. In all his battles across the galaxy, he had learned that desperate creatures could be dangerous, but what could humans do against his mighty fleet? Nothing. "Admiral," said Jexpol, "you will jump to the Sol system in 2 days. Offer them standard surrender terms first. If they refuse, destroy their military vessels and bomb their major cities. Leave enough humans alive to work in our mining colonies." "Understood, Council Leader." Vextar bowed his great head. The hegemony will have another conquered world for its empire. As the council meeting ended, Vextar walked to his command ship. The massive dreadnought waited in orbit above the hegemony capital world. It was 5 kilometers long and armed with enough weapons to destroy moons. Around it, his entire fleet prepared for the jump to human space. Captain Dexmore, his second in command, met him at the ship's bridge. "Admiral, all vessels report ready for hyperspace jump. The navigation computers have plotted our course to Sol." "Good," said Vextar. "Tell me, Captain, what do you think of these humans?" Dexmore's 4 eyes blinked in confusion. "Think of them, Admiral. They are primitives. There is nothing to think about." "Perhaps you are right." Vextar looked at the star maps showing the path to Earth. But I have read their files carefully. These humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. They know war very well. But their technology is so weak, Admiral. Our shields will stop anything they can shoot at us. Our weapons will cut through their ships like paper. This was true. Vextar knew his fleet could win easily, but something bothered him about the humans. They reminded him of stories his grandmother used to tell, stories about small creatures that killed much larger predators through tricks and cunning. "Captain, increase our scan range when we reach Sol system," ordered Vextar. "I want to know about every human ship, every satellite, every piece of metal floating in space." "Yes, Admiral. But surely such caution is not needed against primitives." "Maybe not," said Vextar. "But my grandmother always said that the most dangerous prey looks harmless until it bites you." The fleet jumped into hyperspace with a flash of blue light. Behind them, the hegemony capital grew small and distant. Ahead lay the Sol system and the small blue world called Earth. In a few days, it would be another dead rock in the hegemony empire. Or so they thought. As the ships traveled through the twisted space between stars, Vextar read the human files again and again. These creatures had created terrible weapons to use against each other. They had split the atom and built rockets to touch space. They had even sent small robots to explore other worlds in their system. But most important, they had never given up. Not once in their entire history. Vextar tried to push these thoughts away. His fleet was unstoppable. His weapons could destroy continents. His shields could stop any attack. What could humans possibly do against such power? Soon he would find out. The Caltharian fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system like a storm cloud appearing in clear sky. 200 massive dreadnoughts hung in space like metal mountains. 500 cruisers spread out in perfect attack formation. 1,000 support ships moved into position behind them. Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the sensor displays fill with information about the human system. What he saw made him almost feel sorry for the humans. Their defenses were even weaker than the intelligence reports had suggested. "Admiral," reported Captain Dexmore, "sensors show approximately 30 human vessels scattered throughout the system. Most appear to be near the outer planets. 15 ships are clustered around their home world." "Show me their positions," ordered Vextar. The main screen lit up with a map of the Sol system. Red dots showed where human ships waited. They were spread out in small groups with no clear defensive plan. It looked like they had panicked and scattered when the Caltharian fleet arrived. "Their largest vessel is only 800 meters long," continued Dexmore. "Our smallest cruiser is twice that size. Admiral, this will not even be a battle. It will be target practice." Vextar studied the human positions more carefully. Something felt wrong. The humans had to know they could not win. Why did they not run away? Why did they stay to fight a hopeless battle? "Communications Officer Yextel," called Vextar. "Open standard surrender channels. Use all 17 galactic languages. Give them one chance to submit peacefully." "Yes, Admiral." "Channels open." Vextar spoke into the communication system. His words would be translated and broadcast to every human ship in the system. "This is Admiral Vextar of the Caltharian Empire, acting for the Hegemony Council. You are completely surrounded and outgunned. Surrender now, and your species will be allowed to live as workers in our colonies. You have 1 standard hour to respond." They waited. The bridge was quiet, except for the soft humming of the ship's engines. Around them, the great fleet held position like sleeping giants ready to wake up and kill. Then the response came. It was not sent on proper galactic communication channels. Instead, it came as crude electromagnetic waves, old-fashioned radio signals that most civilized species had stopped using thousands of years ago. "Communications Officer, what are they saying?" asked Vextar. Yextel worked at his station, translating the primitive signals. "Admiral," a human voice says, "this is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Defense Force. Your vessels are trespassing in Sol System. Turn around and leave immediately, or we will consider your presence an act of war." The bridge erupted in laughter. The Caltharian officers clicked their claws and made chittering sounds of amusement. The humans thought they could threaten a hegemony fleet. It was like a tiny insect trying to scare a dragon. "Admiral Chen," Vexitar said into the communicator, still chuckling, "you have 15 ships. We have 1,700. You have chemical weapons. We have plasma cannons that can crack moons. This is not a war. This is an execution. Surrender now or die." The human response came quickly. "Admiral Vexitar, we have received your terms. Here is our answer." Suddenly, the human ships opened fire. Missiles launched from human vessels throughout the system. They were clearly chemical-powered rockets with explosive warheads, ancient technology that belonged in a museum. The missiles moved slowly through space, easy targets for Caltharian point defense systems. "All ships, activate shields," ordered Vexitar. "Let them waste their ammunition. When they are finished, we will show them real weapons." The human missiles reached the Caltharian fleet and exploded against the energy shields. Bright flashes lit up space, but the Caltharian ships were not even scratched. The shields absorbed the explosions easily. But then, Vexitar noticed something that made him pause. Every single human missile had hit its target. Not one had missed. Not one had been shot down by point defense guns. The humans had fired 63 missiles, and all 63 had struck exactly where they were aimed. "Captain Dexmore," said Vexitar slowly, "what is the accuracy rate of our own missile systems?" "About 85%, Admiral." "Why do you ask?" "The humans just achieved 100% accuracy with primitive weapons. How is that possible?" Dexmore checked his sensor readings. "Perhaps they are closer than we thought, Admiral, or maybe they are very lucky." Luck. Yes, that had to be it. But still, something bothered Vexitar about the human attack. No one was that lucky. The human ships now launched a second wave of attacks. This time they used kinetic weapons, metal projectiles fired at high speed. Again, every shot hit its target perfectly. The projectiles bounced off Caltharian armor like pebbles hitting stone. But the accuracy was still perfect. "Admiral," reported the weapons officer, "human vessels are retreating. They appear to be falling back toward their home planet." "Of course they are retreating," said Captain Dexmore. "They have seen that their weapons cannot hurt us. Now they run in fear." Vexitar watched the human ships pull back through the inner system. They moved in good order, not like a panicked retreat. It looked more like they were following a plan. "Advance the fleet," ordered Vexitar. "All ships, move toward the human home world. Maintain attack formation." The Caltharian fleet began its approach to Earth. The great ships moved through space like a metal tide of death. Soon they would be close enough to use their main weapons. Then the humans would see what real firepower looked like. But as they moved deeper into the system, Vexitar noticed more strange things. The space around Earth was full of debris, broken satellites, pieces of destroyed mining stations, and chunks of metal floated everywhere. It looked like the humans had been in a recent battle and had not cleaned up the wreckage. "Sensors report large amounts of space debris around the human planet," said the science officer. "Shall we clear a path with our point defense guns?" "No," said Vexitar. "It is just junk. Our shields will protect us. Continue the advance." The human ships continued to fall back as the Caltharian fleet approached. They fired a few more missiles, but these also bounced harmlessly off the alien shields. The humans seemed to have given up hope. They were just shooting because they were too stubborn to surrender. "Admiral," said Captain Dexmore, "we are now in optimal firing position. All main guns are charged and ready. Shall we begin the bombardment?" Vextar looked at the tactical display. His fleet was perfectly positioned around Earth. The human ships were scattered and defeated. In a few minutes, it would all be over. "Target their military vessels first," he ordered. "Then we will deal with their planet." "Yes, Admiral. All ships, prepare to fire on my command." Vexatar felt a moment of regret. The humans had fought bravely, even though they had no chance. In another universe, he might have respected them. But this was war, and war had only one rule: the strong survived, and the weak died. "All ships," he announced to his fleet, "open fire." 200 Caltharian dreadnoughts fired at once. Brilliant beams of purple energy lanced through space toward their targets. The plasma cannons could melt through the armor of any known warship. They could crack asteroids in half and boil oceans. Nothing could stand against such terrible power. Admiral Vextar watched with satisfaction as the death rays streaked toward the human fleet. In seconds, this pathetic resistance would be over. The humans would learn what happened when primitives challenged the might of the hegemony. But the energy beams never reached their targets. Instead, they struck pieces of floating debris that had been drifting harmlessly through space. Metal fragments that looked like broken satellites and mining equipment. Junk that any smart commander would ignore. The debris exploded, but these were not ordinary explosions. These were the fury of splitting atoms unleashed in the cold void of space. Nuclear fire bloomed like deadly flowers throughout the area around Earth. One after another, the pieces of junk revealed themselves to be nuclear bombs in disguise. "What is happening?" shouted Captain Dexmore as his bridge shook from nearby explosions. More beams fired from the Caltharian fleet, and more hidden bombs exploded. The humans had filled the space around their planet with nuclear mines. Every piece of debris was a weapon waiting to be triggered, and the Caltharian weapons were setting them off one by one. "Emergency shields!" roared Vextar, but it was too late. The nuclear explosions chained through the fleet like a deadly wave. Dreadnought after dreadnought vanished in atomic fire. The bombs had been placed perfectly, right where Caltharian battle tactics demanded the ships position themselves for attack. Vextar realized with growing horror that this was not random. The humans had studied Caltharian warfare. They had learned exactly where the alien ships would be when they attacked. Every bomb had been placed in the perfect spot to cause maximum damage. "Fleet status report," Vextar demanded. "Admiral, we have lost 60% of our dreadnoughts," the communications officer reported. His voice was shaking with fear. 47 cruisers destroyed. The support ships are scattering." The bridge screens showed the terrible truth. The pride of the Caltharian Empire was burning in the void. Ships that had conquered a dozen worlds were now clouds of radioactive gas. The humans had turned the entire space around their planet into the largest minefield in galactic history, and they had used the Caltharians' own weapons to trigger it. "How did they hide so many nuclear devices?" asked Captain Dexmore. "Our sensors should have detected them." The science officer checked his instruments with shaking hands. "Admiral, the bombs were disguised as space debris. Old satellites, broken mining equipment, destroyed space stations. Our computers classified them as harmless junk." "But nuclear weapons give off radiation signatures," protested Dexmore. "We should have seen them." "Not if they were not armed until now," realized Vextar. The truth hit him like a physical blow. "They only activated the weapons when we arrived. Every piece of debris in this system was a bomb waiting for the right moment." More nuclear flowers bloomed as the remaining Caltharian ships tried to retreat. But the minefield was everywhere. No matter which way they moved, their own energy discharges set off more hidden weapons. The humans had turned the aliens' firepower against them. "Admiral, incoming transmission from the human fleet," reported the communications officer. "Put it on screen," ordered Vextar. The face of Admiral Sarah Chen appeared on the main display. She was a middle-aged human female with short gray hair and cold blue eyes. She looked directly at Vextar as she spoke. Admiral Vextar, this is Admiral Chen. I hope you are beginning to understand your situation. You are not fighting primitives. You are fighting humans who have been preparing for this day since we first looked at the stars and wondered who else might be out there. Behind Chen, Vextar could see the bridge of her command ship. It was smaller than a Caltharian cruiser, but the crew moved with the precision of trained killers. These were not panicked primitives. These were warriors who had planned this battle down to the smallest detail. "Impossible," whispered Captain Dexmore. "How could they know we were coming?" Chen seemed to hear him. "Captain Dexmore, we have been watching the galaxy for decades. We know about the hegemony. We know about your conquest fleets. We know how you fight, where you position your ships, and what tactics you use. You see, when you have conquered as many species as you have, patterns emerge." The human admiral smiled, but it was not a friendly expression. It was the smile of a predator showing its teeth. "We studied the wreckage of every fleet you destroyed," she continued. "We analyzed every battle you fought. We learned everything about Caltharian warfare, and then we prepared our welcome for you." Around Earth, more nuclear explosions lit up space as the surviving Caltharian ships tried desperately to escape the minefield. But there was no safe path. The humans had placed their weapons with mathematical precision. "You used our own firepower against us," said Vextar. It was not a question. "Exactly," replied Chen. "We knew you would fire on our ships first. We knew you would use your plasma cannons. We knew where you would position your fleet for maximum effectiveness, so we put nuclear mines in every location where your ships would be when you attacked." Vextar felt sick. His mighty fleet had walked into a trap so perfect it was like watching a machine work. Every move the Caltharians made had been predicted and prepared for. "The retreat," he said suddenly. "Your ships retreated to draw us deeper into the minefield." "Of course," said Chen. "We had to get you into the optimal position before we sprang the trap. Every human ship that fell back was following a carefully planned route. We led you exactly where we wanted you." The scale of the deception was staggering. The humans had not been fighting a hopeless battle. They had been executing a perfectly choreographed dance of death. Every missile they fired, every retreat they made, every seemingly desperate move had been part of a larger plan. "But your technology is primitive," protested Captain Dexmore. "Your weapons are weak. How could you plan something like this?" Chen's expression grew cold. "Captain, you made the same mistake that many others have made. You confused our tools with our intelligence. Yes, our technology is simpler than yours, but our minds work just fine." Another wave of nuclear explosions tore through the Caltharian formation. The communications officer reported more ship losses. What had been a proud conquest fleet was now a collection of burning wreckage. "You see," continued Chen, "while you were conquering the galaxy with superior firepower, we were learning. We studied every species you destroyed. We analyzed every tactic you used. We prepared for the day when you would come for us." Vextar looked at the tactical display. His fleet was shattered. Most of his ships were gone. The survivors were trapped in a minefield with no escape route. "What do you want?" he asked. Chen's smile grew wider. "Admiral Vextar, this is only the beginning. You thought you were hunting prey, but you made one crucial mistake." "What mistake?" "You assumed we were the prey. You never considered that we might be the hunters." The surviving Caltharian ships tried to regroup in the burning remains of their fleet. Admiral Vextar counted fewer than 600 vessels left from his original 1,700. The humans had destroyed over 1,000 ships without losing a single vessel of their own. But the minefield was not the end of the nightmare. It was just the beginning. "Admiral," reported the sensor officer, his voice shaking with fear. "New contacts emerging from Earth's shadow. Multiple human vessels approaching our position. How many? Demanded Vextar. 60. No, 80. Admiral, the count keeps climbing. They are dropping some kind of camouflage system. On the main screen, space around Earth seemed to shimmer and twist. What had appeared empty suddenly filled with human ships. But these were not the crude mining vessels and research stations they had seen before. These were something else entirely. The ships that emerged from hiding were sleek and deadly. Their hulls were dark metal that seemed to absorb light. Weapons ports opened along their sides like predator eyes, and they moved with a grace that no Caltharian vessel could match. "By the void," whispered Captain Dexmore. "Where did those come from?" Admiral Sarah Chen's voice came over the communication channel again. "Admiral Vextar, allow me to introduce you to the real Earth Defense Fleet. The ships you saw earlier were decoys. These are our actual warships." Vextar stared at the display in growing horror. The human fleet was not just larger than expected, it was completely different. These ships looked nothing like the primitive vessels in the intelligence reports. "Impossible," he said. "Our spies reported mining ships and research stations. Where did you hide a military fleet?" "We didn't hide it," Chen replied. "We disguised it. Those mining ships you detected, they really were mining ships, but they were also weapons platforms in disguise. The research stations? They were carrier vessels packed with fighter craft. Everything you saw was real, Admiral. You just didn't see what it really was." As if to prove her point, the human vessels began to transform. Hull panels slid away to reveal massive gun barrels. Cargo bays opened to release swarms of fighter craft. What had looked like civilian vessels revealed themselves as warships designed for a single purpose, killing invaders. "But how?" demanded Captain Dexmore. "How did you hide weapons signatures? Heat signatures? Our sensors should have detected military-grade equipment." Chen's laugh was cold. "Captain, you scan for technology that is more advanced than yours. We built weapons that appear simpler than they are. Our plasma cannons look like mining lasers. Our missile systems appear to be cargo-handling equipment. Our fighter bays seem to be storage compartments." The human fleet spread out around the trapped Caltharians like a pack of wolves surrounding wounded prey. But what happened next made Vextar's blood run cold. The human ships began to move. They did not move like any spacecraft Vextar had ever seen. They twisted and rolled through three-dimensional space with impossible agility. They pulled acceleration forces that should have killed their crews. They executed maneuvers that defied every law of space combat. "How are they not dead?" asked the science officer. "Those acceleration forces would turn any crew into liquid." "Sir," reported the sensor officer, "I am detecting no artificial gravity systems on the human vessels. No inertial dampeners. They are flying without protection from the forces of their own movement." This was impossible. No crew could survive the crushing acceleration of combat maneuvers without protection. Even Caltharians, who were much stronger than most species, needed gravity systems to survive high-speed combat. But the humans were doing it anyway. "Admiral Chen," called Vextar, "how are your crews surviving those maneuvers?" "The same way our ancestors survived hunting mammoth with pointed sticks," she replied. "We adapt. We endure. We push our bodies past what others think is possible." The first wave of human fighters reached the Caltharian formation. They were small, single-pilot craft that moved like living things. They dodged between the massive alien ships, striking with pinpoint accuracy before disappearing into the void. But it was not their weapons that terrified Vextar. It was how they flew. Each human pilot seemed to predict exactly where the Caltharian ships would move. They fired at empty space, knowing that their target would be there in 3 seconds. They avoided return fire by margins so small they seemed impossible. They flew as if they could see the future. "How do they know where we will be?" asked Captain Dexmore, as explosions rocked their ship. "Are they reading our minds?" The answer came from an unexpected source. The ship's computer, analyzing the human attack patterns, provided a report that chilled every officer on the bridge. "Analysis complete," said the artificial voice. "Human pilots are not using targeting computers. They are manually calculating intercept courses using biological neural networks. Estimated processing speed exceeds our best military computers." Vextar felt the universe shift around him. The humans were not using advanced technology to achieve impossible accuracy. They were doing it with their own minds. "They are calculating trajectories in their heads?" he asked. "Confirmed. Human pilots appear to process three-dimensional movement prediction through intuitive mathematical modeling. This suggests evolutionary adaptation for pursuit hunting in complex environments." The truth hit Vexatar like a physical blow. The humans were predators, not just in behavior but in biology. Their brains had evolved to track moving prey through three-dimensional space. What took Caltharian computers millions of calculations, human minds did naturally. More human ships closed in on the trapped fleet. They moved in coordinated patterns that seemed random but were clearly planned down to the smallest detail. Each ship knew exactly where every other ship would be at any moment. "Admiral," reported the communications officer, "we are receiving surrender demands from multiple human vessels. They want us to power down weapons and prepare to be boarded." "Surrender?" Vexatar could hardly believe what he was hearing. The prey was demanding that the predator surrender. Admiral Chen's voice cut through the chaos. "Admiral Vextar, you have two choices. Surrender now, and your surviving crews will be treated according to interstellar law, or continue fighting and discover what humans do to invaders who threaten their home." Around them, the human fleet continued its deadly dance. Every movement was precise. Every shot found its target. The humans fought like they had been born for war in 3 dimensions, which, Vextar realized, they probably had been. "Sir," whispered Captain Dexmore, "what are your orders?" Vextar looked at the tactical display. His once mighty fleet was scattered and broken. The humans had outthought them, outfought them, and revealed capabilities that no intelligence report had even guessed at. But surrendering to primitives was unthinkable. The hegemony would rather see him dead than defeated by a species that had not even mastered faster-than-light travel. "All ships," he announced on the fleet communication channel, "prepare to break out of the encirclement. We fight our way to the edge of the system and escape to hyperspace." The human response was immediate. Admiral Chen's voice carried a note of sadness, as if she had hoped for a different answer. "I am sorry to hear that, Admiral Vextar. We hoped you would choose wisdom over pride. But we understand. We have dealt with pride before." The human fleet began to close in for the kill, and for the first time in his long military career, Admiral Vexatar knew what it felt like to be prey. The final battle was not a battle at all. It was an execution carried out with cold precision by predators who had perfected the art of killing over millions of years of evolution. Admiral Vextar watched from his flagship's bridge as the human fleet moved into final attack position. The remaining Caltharian ships tried desperately to break through the encirclement, but there was no escape. Everywhere they turned, human vessels waited like patient hunters. "Admiral," reported Captain Dexmore, "the humans have cut off every escape route. Ships are positioned at all hyperspace jump points. We are completely surrounded." Vextar nodded grimly. He had expected this. The humans had planned for every possibility, including Caltharian attempts to flee. They were not just winning this battle. They were making sure that no alien ship would escape to warn the hegemony. "All ships, full attack formation," he ordered. "If we are going to die, we die fighting." The surviving Caltharian vessels turned toward the nearest group of human ships, their plasma cannons charged for one final assault. Perhaps they could take some of the cursed humans with them into death, but before they could fire, the human fleet struck first. The attack came from all directions at once. Human fighters swarmed through the Caltharian formation like angry insects, each pilot pulling maneuvers that should have been impossible. Their weapons found every weak point in alien armor. Their timing was perfect down to the microsecond. Behind the fighters came the larger human warships. They moved with the same impossible grace, dodging return fire while delivering devastating attacks of their own. Every shot was calculated not just to destroy, but to cause maximum psychological damage to the surviving crews. "Sir," called the weapons officer, "our plasma cannons cannot lock onto the human vessels. They are moving too unpredictably." "Then fire where they are going to be," shouted Vextar. "Sir, we cannot predict their movements. They do not follow standard flight patterns." This was the humans' greatest advantage. They did not fight like machines following programmed responses. They fought like living creatures, adapting and changing tactics moment by moment. Each pilot made decisions based on instinct and experience rather than computer calculations. The Caltharian dreadnought next to Vextar's flagship suddenly exploded in a ball of fire. A human fighter had somehow penetrated its shields and delivered a precise strike to the reactor core. The ship that had once conquered worlds died in seconds. "How did that fighter get through our shields?" demanded Captain Dexmore. The science officer checked his readings with shaking hands. "Sir, the human pilot calculated the exact frequency rotation of our shield matrix and timed his attack to slip through during a microscopic gap in coverage." "That is impossible. Those calculations would take our best computers several minutes." "The human did it in 3 seconds, sir, using only his brain." Around them, more Caltharian ships died as human pilots performed similar feats of impossible precision. They were not just better fighters than any species Vextar had encountered. They were operating on a completely different level of capability. "Admiral," came Admiral Chen's voice over the communication channel, "this is your last chance to surrender. Stop this pointless slaughter." Vexitar looked at his tactical display. More than half of his remaining ships were gone. The humans had not lost a single vessel. They were toying with the Caltharian fleet like cats playing with wounded mice. "Admiral Chen," he replied, "you have won, but the hegemony will send other fleets, larger fleets. You cannot hide your capabilities forever." Chen's laugh was cold. "Admiral, you still do not understand. We are not hiding from the hegemony. We are preparing to hunt it." The words sent ice through Vextar's veins. The humans were not just defending their world. They were planning to attack the galactic empire that had conquered hundreds of species. "You are insane," he whispered. "The hegemony controls thousands of worlds, millions of ships. You cannot fight an entire galaxy." "Admiral," Chen replied, "my species once hunted creatures 10 times our size with nothing but sharpened sticks. We brought down giants that could crush us with a single step. Do you know how we did it?" More Caltharian ships exploded around them. The human fleet was methodically destroying every alien vessel with ruthless efficiency. "We studied our prey," continued Chen. "We learned their weaknesses, we worked together, and we never gave up no matter how many of us died. That is what made us the most successful predators on our planet." Vextar's flagship shuddered as human weapons found their mark. Warning lights flashed across the bridge. The ship's shields were failing. "And now," Chen said, "we have found new prey among the stars." The bridge screens flickered as power systems failed throughout the ship. Around them, the last few Caltharian vessels fought desperately against the closing human net, but it was hopeless. The hunters had become the hunted. "Sir," reported the communications officer, "incoming transmission from the Hegemony Council. They are demanding a status report." Vexitar looked at the burning remains of his once mighty fleet. In a few minutes, his flagship would join the wreckage floating in the void. The greatest conquest fleet in Caltharian history had been destroyed by a species the hegemony had dismissed as primitive. "Put them through," he ordered. The face of Council Leader Jexapol appeared on the screen. The alien's expression was confident and expectant. He clearly believed the battle was going well. Admiral Vextar, report on the conquest of the human system. How long before their planet surrenders? Vextar felt a moment of bitter amusement. The Council still thought this was just another easy conquest. They had no idea what the humans really were. Council leader, he said slowly, the 47th Conquest Fleet has been destroyed. The humans are not primitives. They are predators. They have turned their entire system into a weapon. We came here to conquer prey and instead found apex hunters. Jexpol's face showed confusion, then disbelief. That is impossible. The intelligence reports showed weak technology, simple weapons, no real military capability. The intelligence reports were wrong, Vextar replied as explosions rocked his bridge. Or the humans made sure they were wrong. They have been preparing for this day since they first learned they were not alone in the galaxy. Around the flagship, the last Caltharian ships died in nuclear fire. The humans showed no mercy to invaders who had come to destroy their world. They fought with the cold efficiency of creatures who understood that survival meant killing everything that threatened their young. Admiral, Jexpol's voice was urgent now. Fall back to hyperspace. Retreat and regroup. We will send reinforcements. There will be no retreat, Vexatar said quietly. The humans have cut off all escape routes. They are not just defeating us, Council Leader. They are making sure no one survives to warn you about what they really are. The truth of it hit him then. This was not just a battle for Earth. This was humanity's announcement to the galaxy. They were serving notice that a new apex predator had entered the cosmic food chain. What are you saying? Demanded Jexpol. I am saying that you sent a conquest fleet to attack the wrong species, Vextar replied. The humans have never surrendered to anyone because they are not prey animals. They are the predators that other predators fear. His flagship's main reactor went critical. Warning alarms screamed throughout the bridge as the ship began its final dive toward destruction. Through the bridge windows, Vextar could see human fighters moving away to engage the last few Caltharian survivors. Council Leader, he said as fire spread through his ship, do not send another fleet to Sol system. Do not underestimate the humans again. They are coming for you. They are coming for all of us. And when they arrive, remember that you were warned. The transmission ended in static as Admiral Vextar's flagship exploded in a ball of superheated plasma. In the cold vacuum around Earth, the last Caltharian vessel died 3 minutes later. No alien ship survived to carry word of the battle back to hegemony space. The humans had planned it that way. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of her flagship, looking out at the expanding clouds of debris that had once been a conquering fleet. Around her, the crew worked quietly to coordinate cleanup operations. Admiral, reported her second-in-command, all enemy vessels destroyed, no survivors detected, the system is secure. Chen nodded. The first test was over. Humanity had proven that it could defend itself against the galaxy's greatest predators. But defense was only the beginning. Send word to all fleet commanders, she ordered. Begin preparation for Phase 2 of the operation. Yes, ma'am. Shall I inform them of our target? Chen looked out at the stars, thinking of all the species the hegemony had conquered and enslaved. All the worlds they had destroyed. All the civilizations they had ground into dust beneath their metal boots. Tell them we are going hunting, she said. Earth continued its slow rotation around its yellow star, appearing once again to be nothing more than a small blue world in the vast darkness. But appearances, as the galaxy would soon learn, could be very deceiving indeed. The age of human expansion was about to begin.